pretend like I'm blowing it on camera as you blowing it. Oh, okay, good. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kadash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Taba'a, Ratazaika, Haya, Aishar, Baharataza, Hawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Latharanawa, Lahom, Ko, Yawam, Wasalaknawa, Kabawathanawa, Kasalaknawa, Kabawathanawa, Wala'a, Tabainawa, Banzai 1, Abo, Hawashai Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Wa'ala, Wathai Parath, Ayalumium, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Yahawashai, Thawada, Aman. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Bahashem Hamashiach Yahawashai, the water of the Yad, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
I praise the Most High, power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Shamash Gaushai. Thank the Most High, Shamash Gaushai, for the Shabbat day, where Israel can come together in the holy convocation as per the covenant that he made with our forefathers back in the days. Perpetual covenant, transcending all generations, even to this last days, which we are in. I praise the Most High. We're going to continue. We are the land of Zion, first and foremost. The land of Zion, located down in South Florida, Broward County, 2937 West Broward Boulevard. I am and the Bishop Lafalala to my left.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasharullah, Captain Aliyah.
We're going to continue with the brother Captain Manasses left off last week. You not hearing? Oh. Con. Oh, it's a bit louder now. I was wondering. Okay. Right. But did it go out, or? Did it out? Oh, it heard me. Oh, my mic. Okay. Well, did they hear me, though? Like I was saying, we are the land of Zion located down in South Florida, 2937 West Broward Boulevard. I'm Elder Bishop Lapala to my left is a Captain.
Captain Aliyah.
Right. And we're going to continue. We are Captain Manasses left off last week. The second Chronicles chapter 32. I think I read up to verse 16. Right. I'll praise the Most High by Shamash Gawashah for another Shabbat day where we can come together in holy convocation. Right. So we know what does Chronicles mean? It's like a documentation, historical documentation, of events in occurrences that took place historically. It's chronicled in an orderly manner, so there's no confusion. timeline and all that are emphasized. And we're gonna it's an era of time where different kings ruled, the northern and the southern kingdom. Okay, so let's start off with Colossians 3 through 17.
Con. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of Hamashiach Yahushai, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by him.
Right, whatever you do in word or deed, whether it's word coming out of your mouth or the action that you're partaking, make sure they're consistent with the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High and the teachings of the Mashiach Yahushai, not just based on your own understanding, which in actuality is what? You're misunderstanding because you're not going according to the scriptures. You're not following you're not adhering to the teachings of the Most High, which perpetually should be our guide. And Second Chronicles 32 verse 16.
Second Chronicles chapter 32
verse 16. Mm-hmm.
Chapter 32 and verse 16. And his servant spake yet more against the Most High thy power, and against his servant Hezekiah. He wrote also letters to rail on the Most High power of Israel, and to speak against him, saying, as the powers of the nations of other lands have not delivered their people out of mine hand, so shall not the power of Hezekiah deliver his people out of my hand.
So we can understand what's going on right here. Israel is being besieged by the Assyrians. Okay, Israel is being besieged by the Assyrians. Now this, what the reading is a narration of the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser. Okay, he's threatening now. He's threatening our king, boasting of the accomplishment, the military accomplishments of his nation, the Assyrians, and how the gods of those nations who they conquered were not able to deliver them out of his hands and out of the hands of his predecessors, kings before him. Okay, so we understand what's going on. All right, read on.
Verse 18. Then they cried with a loud voice in the Jews' speech.
Right, so I know they even did. They knew our language. They spoke our language. The scholars of the Assyrians. So they cried in the Hebrew language speech. Read on. So the people could understand what they were saying, because just in case King Hezekiah didn't want the people to know what was going on, because he didn't want to bring an fear into them. The Assyrians had the audacity to speak in our language, the Hebrew language, so all Israel could hear what he was saying and hear the threats that he was uttering against Israel and the disrespect that was bringing against our power, the Most High, by Shamash Gaushai. Read on.
Verse 18. Then they cried with a loud voice in the Jews' speech unto the people of Jerusalem that were on the wall, to affright them and to trouble them, that they might take the city. And they spake against the Most High and against the power of Jerusalem, as against the powers of the people of the earth, which were the work of the hands of man. And for this cause Hezekiah the king and the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, pray and cry to heaven.
So this guy, he turned up the heat. The Assyrian, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, he turned up the heat on Israel and insulting the Most High. So the king knew, hey, I got to turn to the prophet. So what did King Hezekiah do? He summoned the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, and prayed to the Most High. Let the Most High know what was going on down here. Read on.
And the Lord sent an angel, which cut off all the mighty men of valor.
What do we know about the Most High? The Most High is what? Man of war. The Most High is always in charge of any battle that's going on. And the Most High sent an angel. Because we have this concept of what an angel is. It's like, so peaceful, always, smiling, bringing joy and all that. But this angel that the Most High sent was none of that. Also, we also know that the Most High a God of war, a man of war, and the Most High sent an angel. Read it again. Read 21 again.
Verse 21. And the Most High sent an angel, which
and this angel the Most High sent was what? In response. Read 20. Read verse 20. Because this was in response. Read on.
Verse 20. And for this cause Hezekiah the king and the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, prayed and cried to heaven.
Right. So the Most High do answer prayers, man. If you keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. So Hezekiah knew that he couldn't have done this of his own. So what did he do? He summoned the man of the Most High, the prophet Isaiah. So Isaiah prayed for Israel to the Most High. And the Most High what? What did the Most High say? He always expect the prayer for, someone to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. Read on.
Verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord sent an angel which cut off all the mighty men of valor and the leaders and captains.
And the angel did what? Cut off all the mighty men of valor. So this angel was like you see like the churches depict of these little babies with wings. This angel was what? Man with sword in his hand. A mighty man, a man of valor. And he cut off all the men of valor of the Syrians. And the Lord sent an angel which cut off all the mighty men of valor. Read on.
And the leaders and captains.
Mm-hmm.
And in the camp and the king of Assyria.
Right. So he cut off all the men of valor and leaders and captains in the Assyrian camp. So this angel by himself. And there are times the Most actually the Most always send angels to fight with us, man. On our behalf, alongside us. Even the time of the Maccabees. Read on.
So he returned with shame of face to his own land.
So this king, what the Most High said about when you exalt yourself, get proud. You always get what? Abased. Humble yourself and the Most High will lift you up. When you puff yourself up, you get abased, man. Reduced. Shamed. So he, Salmanazar the king, returned with shame of face to his own land. He used to bow his head on his tail, and then went back to Assyria because what? His mighty men, who he put so much confidence in, got wiped out by this angel that the Most High sent. The man of war sent. Read on. And when he was gone.
And when he was come into his house of his power, they came forth of his own bowels, slew him there with sword.
What does that
mean? The sword.
And when he was come into the house of his God, they that came forth of his own bowels. What does that mean? They that came forth of his own bowels. What does that mean? His own children. His own offspring. So, man, you ain't nothing, man. You're bum. All this big talk you talk about, you're making about, you're going to subdue the Israelites and defeat them and then have the kingdom, pass kingdom over to us. I will succeed you and all that. I must be a part of your empire. What happened? They destroyed you. They destroyed you. You're looking at nothing. You're a nuisance. You're ashamed now. We can't go about. We can't even show our face to our enemies or to our friends and boast of our lineage. So he returned with shame of face to his own land, and when he was come into the house of his God, they that come forth of his own bowels slew him there with the sword. His own offspring, his own, children. Read on.
Verse 22. Thus the Most High saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, and from the hand of all other, and guided them on every side. And many brought gifts unto the Most High to Jerusalem to present to Hezekiah, king of Judah, so that he was magnified in the sight of all nations from thenceforth.
Right. So the nation round about heard of Israel and how the Most High, defeated Sennacherib. So no, that's how it is, man. When they're winning, everybody want to be your friends. When they're losing, hey, they act like they don't know you. So Hezekiah defeated by the hand of the Most High, and his angel defeated the Assyrians. So now all the nation went about was sending gifts to Hezekiah. They say, hey, we're done with you. We want to be your alliance. We want to be your, we want to be part of your alliance. Remember us. We want to be your friends. Read on.
24. In those days Hezekiah was sick to the death, and prayed unto the Most High. And he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him, for his heart was lifted up. Therefore there was wrath upon him, and upon Judah and Jerusalem. Notwithstanding Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Most High came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah had exceeding much riches and honor. And he made himself treasuries for silver and for gold, and for precious stones and for spices, and for shields, and for all manner of pleasant jewels.
Right, so Hezekiah was sick. He prayed to the Most High healed him. Got a little puffed up, but the Most High had mercy on him anyway. I said, I'm not going to bring a wrath upon Israel in your time, because even though you're proud, you do know that I'm the Most High, and you pray to me when in a time of trouble, and I deliver you. Because of my mercy and my love for Israel and the covenant that I made with your forefathers, I'm not going to bring much wrath upon you in your days. But the wrath will come upon Israel after your death, after your passing. And the Most High, I give him Hezekiah riches, man. The Most High is not averse to giving you riches, man. Because what is salvation? Salvation is power and riches. Understand? But when you have your wealth, you have to know how to deal with your wealth. Get me Timothy, 10 verse.
1 Timothy?
I think 2 Timothy, 6 and 10. When you get the riches, you have to know how to distribute.
2 Timothy 6 and 10.
No, 2 Timothy, hold on, let me keep it 6. Hold on, 2 Timothy.
You go up to 4.
Hold on, let me see. See the Timothy though. The 1 Timothy. Hold on.
6 and 10. 1 Timothy 6 and 10. For the love of money. Is the root of evil?
Verse 17 though.
17? Okay. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17.
Yeah, 1 Timothy 6 verse 17. Read on.
Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust the uncertain, giveth us richly all things to enjoy.
Read it again. Read it again.
Verse 7, 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living power, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy.
Right. See that? So the Most High is giving you stipulations to abide by when you have your riches. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded. They be proud and puffed up and boastful about your riches. Don't trust in your uncertain riches that is going to deliver you out of situations. But in the living power, trust in the Most High, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. Just understand that the Most High give you riches to enjoy. Understand? Just like we say, the rich of Israel. Enjoy your riches, nothing wrong with that. But understand the Most High give it to you. Don't be puffed up in it. Always remember the Most High anyway, and be willing to help others with your riches. Read on.
Verse 18. That they do good, that they might be rich in good works, ready to distribute willingly, to communicate.
See that? That they do good, that they be rich in good works. So use your wealth to benefit your people. Ready to what? To distribute, to give. But as we know what the Most High says about you have to be careful who you give to. Don't just give to anyone who asks you randomly. Give to those who keep the commandments of the Most High. Understand? Willing to communicate. Meaning what? You're not gonna cut yourself off from your people because you're wealthier than them. Just know that you came from the same place that they came from. And your situation can change at any given time. And if a situation were to change, and your fortune was to become just like theirs, what would you do? You'd be right there back with them. So they'll be puffed up with your wealth. Be willing to distribute and help out those we can help out. But the Most High tells you who to help out. Those who keep the commandments of the Most High. I'll go back to
2nd Chronicles.
Yes.
Verse 28. Storehouses also for the increase of corn and wine and oil, and stalls for all manner of beasts, and coats for flock. Moreover, he provided him cities and possessions of flocks and herds in abundance. For the Most High had given him substance very much.
Right. So all these riches he got came from who? The Most High. So the Most High we knew in our salvation because Israel was in the salvation, man. Just like our forefather Abraham. Remember Jacob, when Jacob served Laban for 14 years to get Rachel and Leah? He left it with much substance. All in a sheep. So the Most High is not about, having us in poverty. But we just got to know when we get to our riches, how to deal with our riches. Don't let our riches carry you away from serving the Most High. And always use the riches not to oppress or downpress your people, but to uplift them. The ones who are seeking the Most High. Read on.
Verse 30. This same Hezekiah also stopped the upper watercourse of Gihon and brought it straight down to the west side of the city of David. And Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Howbeit, in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, who sent unto him to inquire of the wonder that was done in the land, Yahweh left him to try him, that he might know all that was in his heart. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and his goodness, behold, they are written in the vision of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, and in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the chiefest of the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh, his son, reigned in his stead.
Right. So the Most High blessed Hezekiah. You know what I'm saying? Then he lived a good life. Then his son Manasseh reigned in his stead. Let's go to chapter 33.
2 Chronicles chapter 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem.
See, I understand that we talk about rulership here. Rulership is like a dynasty. Understand? It's passed on to your son, regardless of the age of your son. It's passed on. Once you pass away, it's going to get passed. The rulership of the kingdom is going to get passed on, not to a stranger or another family, but to your son. The son is only 12 years old, but he had advisors, grown men of wisdom, who were around him to advise him as to govern, until he came up a mature age where he can make decisions soundly on his own. But at all times, though, they always had advisors, regardless of the age. But at least when he's older, he'll be able to make certain decisions more reasonably, soundly on his own. Read on. Talking about Manasseh here, at 12 years old, started to reign. Read on.
Verse 2. But did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, like unto the abominations of the heathen, which the Most High had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down. And he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worship all of them, and worship all the hosts of heaven, and serve them. Also,
right. So Manasseh did not walk in even though his father Hezekiah wasn't always consistent with the Most High, because he would go back and forth to the Most High. He had some prideful at some era of times when he was very proud on his own. You know, whenever things were going good, he would forsake the Most High, but he always knew. It's like he took the Most High for granted, but the Most High had mercy on him anyway. And but now Manasseh, he's just straight up against the Most High. The groves, the altars that his father pulled down. What did he do? He rebuilt them. He rebuilt the altars, and he worshipped all the hosts of heaven. What are the hosts of heaven? The sun, moon, and stars. Let me see something. Give me Deuteronomy 4. Verse 15.
okay,
And then jump to verse 19.
okay.
Deuteronomy 4, verse 15, then verse 19. Read on.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Most High spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire.
So this is the Most High talking to Israel, reminding them to take heed unto themselves. For you saw no manner of similitude. What does that mean, similitude? anything resemblant. When I was speaking to you at Mount Horeb, you didn't see any image of any kind to give you an idea what it looked like. For you saw no manner of similitude, no form, on the day that the Most High spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Read on.
Verse 19. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldst be driven to worship them, and serve them, which the Lord thy power hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
Right, so the Most High was a man in Israel. You didn't see any similitude, any image that you may think represents me. And when you look up into the heavens, you see the stars, moon, and the sun, the hosts of heaven, and be drawn unto them to imagine that that's what I am. So this is a commandment from way back when the Moses was given to Israel. When we first came out of Egypt with Moses. Read on.
Verse 20. But the Most High hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day.
Right. So go back to Chronicles. So I just went there to let you know that this is a commandment the Most High gave to Israel from day one. That you should get caught up into worshiping the hosts of heaven, the sun, moon, and the stars. Because first, when we came out of Egypt with Moses, man, and when Moses went up to Mount Sinai to speak with the Most High, the people pressured Aaron to build him a golden calf. Because Israel always is looking for a sign, man. Always so short-sighted in acknowledging the Most High. Always want to have some reassurance. That's what the Most High made his laws, man, to remind Israel not to do those things. Go on, 2 Chronicles.
2 Chronicles chapter 32 and verse 30.
33.
33. 34?
33.
Use Salak. I am in 33.
Read 3 again.
2 Chronicles chapter 33 and verse 3. For he built again the high place which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshiped all the hosts of heaven and served them. Also he built altars in the house of the Most High, whereof the Lord had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Most High.
See that? So he's doing everything the Most High commanded him not to do. Building the altars in the inner. He built the altars in the temple, man. Building altars for the hosts of heaven, for the stars, moon, and sun. And having the people worship these images. These hosts of heaven. Read on.
Verse 6. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom.
So it's going way off now. Do now the things that the heathens do. Sacrificing children now. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Read on.
Also, he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft and dealt with familiar spirit and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Most High to provoke him to anger. And he set and carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of the Most High, of which the Most High had said to David and to Solomon his son, in the house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever.
Right, see that? So he caused the children to pass through the fire, and he observed. He became a witch. He became a witch, man. He became a Mr. Cleo. Call him now. Wizards, he brought much evil inside the Most High. And he said a carved image. He said a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of the Most High. So this guy wasn't aware of was he not aware of the scriptures? Of which Most High had said to David and to Solomon, his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. So he totally disregarded the commandments of the Most High and did whatever it pleased him, according to the ways of the other nations. Read on, verse 8.
Verse 8, neither will I any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land which I have appointed for your fathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses. So Manasseh made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err, and to do worse than the heathen, whom the Most High had destroyed before the children of Israel. And the Most High spake to Manasseh and to his people, but they were not hearkened.
See, the Most High is always warn you, remind you of your evil ways before it brings a wrath upon you. But Manasseh was steadfast in following the ways of the nations, and he was going to pay a price for it. Read on.
Verse 11. Wherefore the Most High brought upon them the captains of the hosts of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and cried him and carried him to Babylon.
So the Most High sent the Assyrians to invade Israel and to capture Manasseh, bound him with fetters and carried him to Babylon, because I know that because the Assyrians are ruling over Babylon now. Read on.
Verse 12. And when he was in affliction, he besought the Most High his power, and humbled himself greatly before.
What did the Most High say? In your affliction you will seek him early. That's what it is with Israel. They all know, because you must have heard of the deeds of Israel during the time of his father Hezekiah, and how even the other nations came to acknowledge Hezekiah and brought in gifts to recognize the Most High deeds, and how he delivered Israel from the Syrians and other nations. Understand? But he didn't care. So now what? He's afflicted in the affliction, and when he was in affliction, he besought the Most High his power, because what? Of course he besought the help of his idols, but he saw what? That couldn't help him. Also now you remember the Most High. When you see that your idols can't help you, now you want to besought the help of the Most High. Read on.
Mm-hmm. Verse 12. And when he was in affliction, he besought the Most High his power, and humbled himself greatly before the Most High of his fathers, and prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem, into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Most High, he was
See that?
God.
The Most High is so merciful, man. Even when they serve others. The Most High is a keeper of covenant. And the Most High is not doing this because of Manasses, right? He did it because of what? The covenant he made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Read on. So the Most High delivered Manasseh from the Assyrians and brought him back to Jerusalem into a position of rulership. Read on.
Verse 14.
So the Most High can deliver you from any detrimental situation you may be in. Just acknowledge your transgression. It's so simple. Acknowledge your transgression, and if it be the Most High's will, He can take you from any low state and bring you back into power, into a position of rulership, man. That's what they did for Manasseh, King Manasseh, because the Babylonians, the Assyrians, had bound him with fetters and brought him to Babylon. But the Most High had him return back to Jerusalem to his position of rulership. Read on.
Verse 14. Now after this, he built a wall without the city of David, on the west side of Gihon, in the valley, even to the entering in at the fish gate, and compassed about Ophel, and raised it up a very great height, and put captains of war in all the fenced cities of Judah. And he took away the strange powers and the idol out of the house of the Most High, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of the Most High, and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. And he repaired the altar of the Most High, and sacrificed thereon peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Judah to serve Yahweh, power of Israel.
So he made a complete runabout turn. He moved from a life of what? Serving idols now to serving the Most High, and commanding Judah and Israel to serve the Most High. Read on.
Verse 17. Nevertheless, the people did sacrifice still in the high places, yet unto the Most High their power only. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and his prayer unto the Most High, and the words of the seers that spake unto him in the name of the Most High, power of Israel, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer also, and how the Most High was entreated of him, and all his sin, and his trespass, and the places wherein he built high places, and set up groves and graven images before he was humbled. Behold, they are written among the sayings of the seers. So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his stead.
Right, the prayer of Manasseh. His prayer also, even that's documented. The prayer of Manasseh. It's in the Apocrypha, right? So we're not gonna necessarily read it, but at least acknowledge it. That's how you know also that the Apocrypha and the Bible, I mean, the Apocrypha is part of the Bible. Give a reading right here in the Second Chronicles on the prayer of Manasseh. So if anyone reading the Bible and wants to, so where are these prayers? Where can I find them? Right here. The Apocrypha, the prayer of Manasses. It says, the prayer of Manasseh, king of Judah, when he was holden captive in Babylon. But we're not going to read this out. Just for time constraint. But, at your convenience, it behooves you, to acquaint yourself with your situation in the prayer, to see what did the Manasseh say to the Most High, to convince the Most High that he was, repentant, for the Most High to forgive him and to restore him. All these are like templates, man, that we should follow to bring ourselves out of situation that we are in, so the Most High can deliver us. What did Manasseh say to the Most High? What was the structure of this prayer? So we can follow it and be delivered from our personal situations. All right, go back to the scriptures, the Bible.
2 Chronicles chapter 33 and verse 20. So Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his stead. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But
Right, he was 20 years old. He was 22 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned what? 2 years in Jerusalem. What happened? He was 22 and he reigned for 2 years. Wow, what happened? Read on.
Verse 22, but he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, as did Manasseh his father. For Amon sacrificed unto all the carved images which Manasseh his father had made, and served them, and humbled not himself before the Most High, as Manasseh his father had humbled himself, but Amon trespassed more and more. And his servants conspired against him, and slew him in his own house. But the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Amon. And the people of the land made Josiah, his son, king in his stead.
So Manasseh was succeeded by his son Amon, who started reigning at 22, but only reigned for 2 years. He was so evil. I don't know what kind of life he was living, that his servants conspired against him. Servants say, this guy ain't gonna last. And I mean, so his servants conspired against him, and they slew him. But the people didn't condone that. The people of Israel didn't condone that mutiny. So the people of Israel, of Judah, in turn slew all those of Ammon's household who had killed him. And then his son, and then Ammon's son, Josiah, reigned in his stead. So let's watch it on the timeline like this, though. Ammon was 22 years old when he began to reign, right? So he was 22 years old, right? And reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. So he reigned for 2 years, so that's 24. So he was killed when he was 24, right? He was killed when he was 24.
Chron.
And then his son and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Read chapter 34 now. So he died when he was 24. All right? Let's get out. Read on.
2 Chronicles chapter 34. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years.
So his son Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign. Did his son began to reign immediately after his father's death? Because if his son was, if Uzziah was 24 when he died, and his son was 8 when he started to reign, that means that Ammon was 16 when he was his son or his father, right? If he had reigned immediately, or was there like an in-between period? Probably not. Otherwise, they would have told you, because time doesn't stand still. I'm saying, when Ammon died, time was still ensuing. Time was still going on. People were still living. But who was ruling during that time? Because the way the reading right here is Hosea. So apparently, based on this, unless there was an interim king, unless maybe the people who slew Ammon reigned for a little while, and then but it would have been a king though, and they would have probably mentioned who the king was who reigned if that was the case. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just trying to figure out how old he was when it was with the father of Uzziah. So Josiah, Uzziah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years old. So he reigned till he was 39. Read on.
Verse 2. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Most High.
Wow, that's a good switch.
And walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left.
So Uzziah reigned righteously. Read on.
Verse 3. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Most High after the power of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence. And the images that were on high above them he cut down, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, and Ephraim, and Simeon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattocks round about.
So it didn't just, remember at this time the kingdom was already divided into two. The original kingdom was divided into northern and southern kingdom. And he was the king of Judah.
John.
Understand?
John.
Give me 2 Kings 17. Remember the kingdom was split into two after the death of Solomon, which was what? 933 BC. Right? And the northern kingdom was taken away by the Assyrians in when? 722 BC. So basically, the northern kingdom ruled independently for 211 years before it was disrupted by the Assyrians in 722 BC. Second Kings 17:24.
2 Kings chapter 17.
So we're trying to understand how, because we just read right here how Josiah was able to cleanse the temple and the altars in Judah and also in the northern kingdom, like Manasseh, Ephraim, and all those different territories, which we know are northern kingdom territories, outside of the sovereignty or the territory, jurisdiction of the southern kingdom, Judah, right? So we're trying to find out how was he able to do that? Because we know that the Assyrians were supposed to be ruling in the northern kingdom as of 722 BC. Read on.
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought them from Babylon, and from Cuthah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
Right. So what did they do? So you saw the Assyrians brought people from those territories and placed them. Read it again.
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuthah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared the most, the Most High.
Let me see something.
Okay.
I want to see what verse I need to go back to show that the Most High. Go back to verse 18.
17 and 18?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 18. Therefore the Most High was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
Actually, go to verse 23.
Verse 23. Until the Most High removed Israel out of his sight, as he has said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
Right. So the Israelites who was in the northern kingdom was carried away by the Assyrians into the territories that the Assyrians are ruling. All right, great. Okay, great. Continue now in 2 Kings.
It's in Chronicles?
2 Kings.
Okay. All right.
2 Kings. Read on.
Okay. I had just jumped off I had jumped off the page and went back. 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon unto Cuthah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria, instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof.
Right. So you see there was like a trading of places. The Israelites from the northern kingdom were taken out from by the Assyrians and brought to different territories that the Assyrians ruled in Babylon, and then brought people from those territories and bring them to the northern kingdom. I'll go back to Chronicles.
Okay.
Second Chronicles 33. Yeah.
I think we are around 20. We already read. No, we in 34.
34?
Yeah, we in chapter 34.
Right, 34, yeah.
On verse 3. Second Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 3. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the power of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence, and the images that were on high above them, and cut down the groves, and carved images and molten images. And he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon the altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. So did he in the cities of Manasseh and Ephraim and Simeon. And even unto Naphtali, with the mattocks round about.
Right. So you see, so he had influence in even though those other territories. Even though the Assyrians had occupied those territories. So we could infer from this that even though, so there must have been some remnant of Israel still in those territories, in those, understand? Because this is after the Assyrians had brought the northern kingdom to Babylon and brought Babylonians into the northern kingdom.
Okay.
So they were still maybe they it was just like you know, it was an absolute elimination of the population. Maybe they just like now when the Babylonians had brought the more prominent of our people to Babylon, like Daniel and all those the scholars, people you know are not going to be a burden to their kingdom, but an asset. So there were still Israelites left in the northern kingdom. Otherwise, why would Josiah concern himself with you know, with the cleansing of the temple and the altars and all that in those territories, unless his people were there. Mm-hmm. Okay, reading right here where Josiah had those places cleansed and rededicated back to the Most High.
Right.
Understand? And of course, he would only be concerned about doing that if his people were there. So even though the scripture, we have to understand the context of what the scripture is saying, because the scripture may say, and all were taken, but it wasn't all taken. They were still left there, and we could see that also. We can see that also in the time of if we jump forward now, in the time of the Mashiach Yahushai, and subsequent to the Mashiach Yahushai, that because even though we read it in the Apocrypha where it says they took counsel among themselves that they were going to leave the nations and come to a place where to worship the Most High where never mankind dwelt.
Right.
That kind of give you the impression that they all came. That wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. It's never a case where we all came. There's always a remnant left someplace. Understand? Mm-hmm. Because we saw also, you know, we that's why we had the two different categories of Gentiles.
Right.
Understand? The Gentiles, which were the heathens,
right,
and then the Israelites, who grew up among the heathens and took on the customs and even the nationality, identity. But they were but lineage-wise, they were actually Hebrew Israelites, even though they were identified as being Gentiles. Well, where these Gentiles come from? They were left back. They were the remnant. They were the ones who didn't come over here in 538 BC to the Euphrates. They were the ones who was left back in the northern kingdom when the Assyrians took the cream of the crop and brought them into Babylon and a different part of their territory, the middle of their territories. Understand? I just want to have an idea. I want to also visualize that and understand why you know, you have to understand the context of words.
Right.
Even though it says all were taken, it's not absolutely all were taken. I mean, the majority are all of the ruling class, or the more prominent ones, who the Babylonians or Assyrians thought could have built up the empire. But the Most High can raise up even stone to serve him. So even those who the enemies thought, hey, we don't need those. Like, you know what I mean? unproductive. You know what I'm saying? Most I can raise them up.
Right.
Which is what it did. All right, I'll go back to because I'm gonna finish these chapters. Read on. Go back.
Second Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 7. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, and Manasses and Maaseiah, the governor of the city, and Joah, the son of Joahaz, the recorder, to repair the house of the Most High his power. And when they had came to Hilkiah, the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of the Most High, which the Levites that kept the door had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and all the remnant of Israel, and of all Judah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. And they put in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of the Most High, and they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of the Most High to repair and amend the house. Even to the artificers and builders gave they it, to buy hewstone and timber and couplings, and the floor of the house which the kings of Judah had destroyed. Verse 12. And the men did the work faithfully, and overseers of them were Jaath and Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of Merari, and Zechariah, Mushalem, and the sons of the Kohathites, to set it forward, and other of the Levites, all that could skill of instruments and music. Verse 13, also they were over the bearers of burdens, and were overseers of all that were the work in any manner of service. And of the Levites there were scribes, and officers, and porters. And when they wrought out the money that was brought in the house of the Most High, Hilkiah the priest found a book of the law of the Most High given by Moses.
Right, so now these men were trying to organize themselves together, the Levites, and, players of instruments, the scribes, the prophets. We mentioned Obadiah, Zechariah, all those men as those prominent prophets of the Most High. They were all there, are playing a role, in preserving the temple, the altars, and all that, getting the necessary funding, so things can be repaired, repaired, and in doing that, in all that, then what? The priest found a book of the law of the Most High given by Moses. Wow. Read on, let's see what developed from that.
Verse 15. And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan, the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Most High. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. And Shaphan carried the book to the king, and brought the king word back again.
See the chain of command? This is not a case where, one trying to, go around the other. Mm-hmm. The respect was thrown. You know what I'm saying? If an officer saw something, hey, bring it to the captain. Captain saw something, bring it to captain higher rank. Then, you know what I mean? Bring it to the minister, to the elders, and so on. And so, verse 15 said, and Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan, the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Most High. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. And Shaphan carried the book to the king and brought the king word back again. So, read on.
Saying, all that was committed to thy servants, they do it. And they have gathered together the money that was found in the house of the Most High, and have delivered it into the hand of the overseers, and to the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan, the scribe, told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the Most High, that he rent his clothes.
Isn't that something? It's like they had gone for years, not being mindful of the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, man. They've gone for years just leaning on their own understanding, which is their own misunderstanding. Because when this book was of the law was brought to the king will rent his clothes and say, what? Are you telling me that all this time we were supposed to be doing such and such and such, when in fact we were doing something totally contrary to the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments? And that grieved the king madly, to the point that he rent his clothes, put on sackcloth, became repentant, and saw the face of the Most High and asked for forgiveness. Read on.
It's a lot. I lost the spot.
Verse 19.
Verse 19. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah and Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Abdon, the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asah, a servant of the king, saying, Go inquire of the Most High for me, and for them, that they are left in Israel and in Judah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Most High, that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the words of the Most High, to do after all that is written in the book, in this book. And Hilkiah, and they that the king had appointed, went to Huldah, the prophetess, the wife of Shulam, the son of Tikvath, the son of Hasrah, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they spake to her to that effect.
See that? You have to acknowledge that sisters played a role too. Let's read verse 22 again.
Verse 20.
And Hilkiah and they that the king had appointed. So the king had appointed this that's like the king's cabinet, like the president's cabinet. Went to Huldah the prophetess. See, so we have to acknowledge that the Most High worked through sisters too. So they went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shalom, the son of Tikvath, the son of Hasrah, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college. What is a college? It's an institution of higher learning, right? So we understand that even though the sisters may not necessarily be in an altar, they played a role in Israel. So what they were knowledgeable people. They were prophetess. So she dwelt in the college, being either she was a student, a faculty, or a professor, so to speak. She was sharing knowledge with other fellow Israelites, whether other sisters or not. Understand? And they spake to her to that effect, and they communicated to her what had happened. She was a scholar. Understand? They would not have consulted her if she was not someone of a reputation of higher learning. So they spoke to her of what was that? What? Okay, well, read it then.
College, out of the blue letter. Mishneh, double, biblical usage, double, copy, repetition, copy of law. Second in order, second quarter or district. Yeah, second place or the rank.
It's a copy of law?
Copy of law.
Or a copy of laws. So that means what? She was supposed to be versed in the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. That's why the Most High. That's why she was recognized and acknowledged as being a prophetess. That's why that was brought to her attention. Okay, all right. Go read on. Ark.
Verse 23. And she answered them, Thus saith the Most High, power of Israel, tell ye the man that sent you to me. Thus saith the Most High, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book which they have read before the king of Judah, because they have forsaken me and have burnt incense unto other powers, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore, my wrath shall pour out upon this place and shall not be quenched.
Right. So she told them what the Most High said. Told her to tell them that it was going to bring wrath upon Israel because they had forsaken his laws, statutes, and commandments. Read on.
Verse 26. And as for the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of the Most High, so shall ye say unto him, Thus saith the Most High power of Israel, concerning the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou didst humble thyself before the Most High, when thou heardest his words against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbled thyself before me, and didst rent thy clothes, and wept before me. I have even heard thee also, saith the Most High. Behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to thy grave in peace. Neither shall thine eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place, and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king words again.
So she was saying, all this is going to go down, but this is not going to go down in the time of his desire, because what? You have shown yourself to be a humble man, one that feared the Most High. So because of that, the Most High is going to bring you to your grave in peace. And you will not go through all this stressful time and a time of wrath that I'm going to bring upon Israel. Read.
Verse 29. And the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Most High, and all the men of Judah, and inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests, and the Levites, and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of the Most High. And the king stood in his place and made a covenant before the Most High, to walk after the Most High, and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which are written in this book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of the Most High. The Most High the power of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the inhabitants' abominations out of all the countries that pertain to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve the Most High their power. And all his days they departed not from following the Most High the power of their fathers.
Right, so Josiah, he turned the nation around, man. So a powerful king can do that. A powerful king can either turn the nation away from the Most High or turn the nation to the Most High. Josiah now happened to be the one, once he heard the word of the Most High, once it was brought to his attention, what did he do? He went into, righteous mode, man. Became very proactive, gathered the elders of Israel and Jerusalem, the elders of Judah and Jerusalem together. You know what I mean? I get people organized in the matter. Hey, I let them know that we have to keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and turn the people to the ways of the Most High. Read on.
2 Chronicles chapter 35. Moreover, Josiah kept a Passover unto the Most High in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. And he set the priests in their charges, and encouraged them to serve the house of the Most High, and said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto the Most High, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now the Most High your power and his people, Israel, and prepare yourselves by the house of your fathers, after your courses, according to the writing of David of Israel, and according to the writing of Solomon his son, and stand in the holy place according to the divisions of the families of the fathers of your brethren, the people, and after the division of the families of the Levites. So kill the Passover and sanctify yourselves, and prepare your brethren, that they may do according to the word of the Most High by the hand of Moses. And Josiah gave to the people of the flock lambs and kids, all for the Passover offering, for all that were present, to the number of 30,000 and 3,000 bullocks. And these were of the king's substance. And his princes gave willingly unto the people, to the priests, and to the Levites. Hilkiah and Zechariah and Jehiel, rulers of the house of the Most High, gave unto the priests for the Passover offerings 2,600 small cattle and 300 oxen. Aniah also, and Shemaiah, and Nethiel, his brethren, and Hashabiah, and Jael, and Jozabad, chief of the Levites, gave unto the Levites for Passover offerings 5,000 small cattle and 500 oxen. So serve was prepared, and the priest stood in the place, and the Levites in the courses, according to the king's commandment.
Right. So now, this is one way Isaiah was endeavoring to show that, hey, we are trying to establish ourselves now as a righteous kingdom. So what they do? Put in a most magnificent Passover. And the people were very much in cooperation. All these prominent people of Israel, the wealthy people who the Most High had blessed through the years, they willingly donated, contributed a whole lot of cattle, a whole lot of sheep, you know what I'm saying, a whole lot of things for the Passover.
Mm-hmm.
I read on.
Verse 11, and they killed the Passover, and the priests sprinkled the blood from their hands, and the Levites flayed them. And they removed the burnt offerings, and they might give according to the divisions of the families of the people to offer unto the Most High, as it is written in the book of Moses. And so did they with the oxen, and they roasted the Passover with fire according to the ordinance. But the other holy offerings saw they in pots, and in cauldrons, and in pans, and divided them speedily among all the people. And afterward they made ready for themselves and for the priests, because the priests, the sons of Aaron, were busied in offering of burnt offerings and fat until night. Therefore the Levites prepared them for themselves, and for priests the sons of Aaron. And the singers of the sons of Asaph were in the place according to the commandment of David, and Asaph, and Heman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer. And the potters waited at every gate. They might not depart from their service, for their burden the Levites prepared for them. So all the service of the Most High was prepared the same day, to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings upon the altar of the Most High, according to the commandment of King Josiah.
Right, so see that? The food is prepared. The singers and the sons of Asaph, Asaph was cheap musician. And the singers, the sons, like, people that get the profession, in the family. And the singers, the sons of Asaph, were in their place, according to the commandment of David, and Asaph and Heman and Jeduthun, the king's seers. And the porters waited at every gate. They might not depart from their service, for their brethren, the Levites, prepared for them. Read on. So everyone is making a contribution. I'm playing a role, proudly playing a role. Read on.
10.
Verse 18.
18. Mm-hmm. Verse 18. And there was no Passover like that.
As a matter of fact, 17.
Verse 17?
Mm-hmm.
Con.
Mm-hmm.
2 Chronicles chapter 35 and verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
And the children of Israel that were present kept the Passover at that time, and the feast of unleavened bread 7 days. And there were no Passover like that kept in Israel from days of Samuel the prophet. Neither did all the kings of Israel keep such a Passover as Josiah kept, and the priests and the Levites, and all Judah and Israel that were present, and in the inhabitants of Jerusalem.
Yeah, what did the Most High say when you were lost and you found him? When you were in transgression and you come to righteousness, you got to seek him 10 times as hard. And this is what Josiah was doing. What did you say right here? There was no Passover in Israel from the time of Samuel. And there was no Passover like to that kept in Israel from the days of Samuel the prophet. Neither did all the kings of Israel keep such a Passover as Josiah kept. And the priests and the Levites and all Judah and Israel that were present and inhabitants of Jerusalem. They all knew that. He went all out. The Most High, no, we're sorry, Most High. We realized we were in transgression. We found the laws, statutes, and commandments, and now we want to show you that you're very much in repentant and seeking the forgiveness. So he went all out, seeking the Most High 10 times as hard. Read on.
Verse 19. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept. After all this, when Josiah had prepared...
In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept. How old was he when he started reigning again? 8. So this is the 18th year of his reign. So how old is he right now? 26. Still a young man. All right, read on.
Verse 20.
So there's no excuse why young brothers can have a fervent, passion for serving the Most High. Read on.
Verse 20. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Karshemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent ambassadors to him, saying, What have I to do with thee, thou king of Judah? I come not against thee this day, but against the house wherewith I have war. For the Most High commanded me to make haste, forbear thee from meddling with the Most High, who is with me, that he destroy thee not.
You know something? So this guy said, the Egyptian was saying, the Most High is with him. Was it being sarcastic, or were they very much aware that, hey, that the Most High is the power, the only power there is? It's just kind of strange that he's referring to the Most High as a power. He's acknowledging the Most High as the ultimate power. I read on. So it looked like Josiah was trying to meddle into a war that Egypt had with another nation. Read on.
Verse 22. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself that he might fight with him, and hearken not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of the Most High, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. And the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, Have me away, for I am sore wounded. His servants therefore took him out of that chariot and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem. And he died. And he was buried in one of the sepulchres of his fathers, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah.
So Necho, Necho, king of Egypt, came to fight against Karkemish by the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to fight against him. Necho was speaking as if at least he was acknowledging the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
But Josiah did not take heed to what Necho was saying. Because of that, hey, he ended up going to the war anyway, and he got injured in the war to the point that he died. So they no more than his death. I read on.
Verse 25. And Jeremiah lamented for Josiah, and all the singing men and all the singing women spake of Josiah and their lamentations to this day, and made them an ordinance in Israel, and behold, they are written in the lamentations. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and his goodness, according to that which was written in the law of the Most High, and his deeds.
Just to give you an idea of the era of time, we talk about Isaiah. Remember earlier, Hezekiah consulted Isaiah to speak, who prayed to the Most High when Sennacherib, when the Syrian came up. But no, we're reading about Jeremiah. So we just giving an idea. We're doing the Chronicles. So this was during the time of the Syrians and leading up to the Babylonians. Occupation of our land. I read on.
Verse 27. And his deeds, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. 2 Chronicles chapter 36.
Last chapter, we're going to wrap it up now. Read on.
Then the people of the land took Joahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's stead in Jerusalem. Joahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem.
What? What happened? He reigned 3 months? What could have happened? He was 23. I don't believe a 23-year-old would have died of natural cause. He woke up dead. Heart attack. Let's see what happened.
Verse 3. And the king of Egypt put him down at Jerusalem and commanded the land in 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold.
But and the king of Egypt put him down at Jerusalem. What does that mean? The king of Egypt put him down. What does that mean? He killed him? Right, 3 months. And commanded the land in 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. Remember also that the king of Egypt was now basically a prominent power also, right? And they saw an opening. They saw, hey, Uzziah died. So I mean, this guy is probably weak. So we're gonna test him. Let's see if that was the case. Read on.
Verse 4. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem, and turned his name to Jehoiakim. And Necho turned Joahaz his brother and carried him to Egypt.
Also, okay, so it was Necho, the king of Egypt, who he took him down. Basically, it's okay. Okay, I mean what? It took him off his seat, put him over power. I guess his brother was more cooperative with Egypt than Jehoahaz was. Okay, took Jehoahaz his brother and carried him to Egypt. So they took the king who was succeeded Josiah. They took Jehoahaz to Egypt. Read on.
Verse 5. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, his power. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters and carried him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also...
So see that now? First, we were reading about the Egyptian king was, who had put this guy in rulership. But now we're reading about Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So it's like Nebuchadnezzar now became they were prominent. They were prominent nations. So it's like this nation where they were jockeying for power. Who was going to be the superpower or the more dominant power of the area? How we read, right? Well, Egypt. It was Egypt who was flexing the muscles and took off Jehoahaz, right, of his seat and brought him to Egypt,
Right.
and put his brother in his instead. But now we see that the Babylonians coming up now.
All right.
And Nebuchadnezzar also carried. And Nebuchadnezzar. Read it out. We have verse 6.
Yeah, with verse 6.
Read verse 6 again.
Verse 6. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 7. Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the Most High, vessels of the house of the Most High, to Babylon, to put them in his temple at Babylon. Now, the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and his abominations which he did, and that which was found in him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead. Jehoiakim was 8 years old when he began to reign.
Just like Uzziah, read on.
And he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High.
Hold on. Oh, come on now. He was 8 years old when he began to reign. And he did evil in the sight of the Most High. This guy even have sense, 80-year-old guy have sense to know what was good or evil. Why was he taking the blame for somebody else who was Jehoiachin was 8 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. Why did he be so precise? 3 months and 10 days. So he reigned 3 months. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High. Okay, took the heat for somebody else's evil. Why was he taking us? Let's see what happened. Read on, verse 10.
Verse 10. And when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of the Most High, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign.
So it's kind of strange. But why would they have chosen an 8-year-old to reign instead of a 21-year-old? I guess it depends on the influence that maybe the mother, maybe it's a different mother. I know our different mother, and they have different support system where they can maybe the king prefer maybe that's what it was. Just like maybe the king, just like the king prefer King David prefers Solomon because of the love he had for Bathsheba. Whereas there were older brothers that probably should have gotten the or it's just the Most High's doing. I read on. Verse 11.
Verse 11. Zedekiah was 21 years old.
21 years old,
when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem.
Verse 32, read on.
And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, his power, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of the Most High. And he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by the Most High. But he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto the Most High, power of Israel. Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of the Most High, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. Verse 15. And the Most High, power of their fathers, sent unto them by his messenger, rising up betimes, and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of the Most High, and despised his words, and amused his prophets, until the wrath of the Most High arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young men or maiden, old men or him that stood for age. He gave them all into his hand. Verse 18. And all the vessels of the house of the Most High, great and small, and the treasures of the house of the Most High, and the treasures of the king and of the princes, all these he brought to Babylon, and they burnt the house of the Most High, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all the palaces thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof.
You know what time this? When was this? It's just we're reading about the Babylonians destroyed our temple, or they burnt down our temple. That's what we're reading about right here.
Right.
Or they took all the vessels of the temple and brought or they slaughtered the men, the young men of the mercy, young and old, maiden, man or woman and child, and then brought all the good vessels to Babylon, and then what? Then burnt down the temple. When was this? This is the time of the Babylonians now. Talking about 586 BC.
580.
586 BC. To give you an idea. Read on.
Verse 19. And they burnt the house of the Most High, and break down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all the palaces thereof.
All right, as well, read 18 again.
Verse 18. And all the vessels of the house of the Most High, great and small, and the treasures of the Most High, of the Lord, and the treasures of the king, and of his princes, all of these brought to Babylon. And they burnt the house of the Most High, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all the palaces thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of the Most High by the mouth of Jeremiah, and to the land he had enjoyed her Sabbaths.
What did the Most High say to Jeremiah? Get Jeremiah 29 and 10.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29 and verse 10. For thus saith the Most High, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you, and perform my good word toward you, and causing you to return to this place.
Right, so the Most High was telling Jeremiah to tell the Israelites that they were going to be in Babylon for what? For how long? 70 years, 70 years. Understand? So you can understand 70 years. So when did they leave Babylon? 538 BC, right? Yeah, 538 BC. We gotta go to that in the but remember that they went to Babylon, but the temple got destroyed in 586 BC.
Right, around 580.
So the Babylonians were basically encamping around us, but so 600 or so BC. They eventually burned down the temple in 586 BC, carried away the most prominent of our people to build up their walls. And we just read in Jeremiah, and the Most High said what? After 70 years was accomplished, then he would visit us in Babylon. So what that tells you what? We stayed in Babylon for 70 years. I read on. In Chronicles.
Go back to Chronicles?
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 20. And them that he carried from the sword, Second Chronicles chapter 36 and verse 20. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon.
I mean, those that didn't get killed. Read on.
Where they
were servants.
Where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia.
Right, what does that mean? They were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the Persians. Wow. What hint does that give you? No, the Babylonians was in rulership until what? Until the Persian Medes. the Persian and Medes took over rulership from them. Understand? That's what I was talking about. Because it was the Persian and Medes that we're gonna see now in subsequent lessons. It was the Persian and Medes that we got our freedom from, as per the Most High. Read on.
Verse 21. To fulfill the word of the Most High by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years.
Right, to fulfill 70 years. What is that, 70 years? What is 70 years?
70.
Right, which we just read in Jeremiah. That's what we're talking about right here. To fulfill the words of the Most High by the mouth of Jeremiah until the land had enjoyed her Sabbath. That's the Sabbath right there. Because what? Because the land didn't enjoy the Sabbath. The 70 years is the Sabbath. The completion. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. So the land was desolate. There wasn't much going on in Jerusalem during the 70-year period. Read on.
Verse 22. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Most High spake by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, the Most High stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth have the Most High power of heaven given me, and have charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? The Most High, his power be with him, and let him go up.
Right. So the Most High is willing to. The Most High what? The Most High control the hearts of kings, man. This wasn't just Cyrus's own doing because he wanted to do it. The Most High had already prophesied 70 years ago that Israel is going to be in Babylon under the Babylonians for 70 years. Then the Persian Medes came into rulership, and the Most High put the spirit, put it in Cyrus's spirit to be lenient to Israel and to encourage them to go back to Jerusalem to build up the temple. That's all that is. So the Most High controlled the hearts of men, just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart, softened his heart when it felt like. Just like what all this is going on right now. All this is going on between Russia and Ukraine and whatever. When it's time, the Most High can change any of their heart at any given point in time to accomplish whatever objective the Most High want to accomplish. Go ahead.
Proverbs 21:1.
Huh?
Proverbs 21:1.
Proverbs 21:1. What is that saying? You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Proverbs 21:1.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 21 and verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Most High, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will.
Con, great script, great precept. The king's heart is in the hand of the Most High. Read it again.
Proverbs chapter 21. The king's heart is in the hand of the Most High.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Most High. Read on.
As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he willeth.
You ever see a river flows? A river doesn't flow in one straight line. A river flows meandering downstream. Understand? So the Most High can change the king's heart at will. You know what I'm saying? The Most High, the puppet master. You can have the kings do whatever you want them to do whenever you want them to do it. Or you can give them to accomplish whatever mission the Most High, an objective the Most High endeavors. Okay? So that's what it did to Cyrus on behalf of Israel to fulfill the prophecy that he made concerning Israel through the prophet Jeremiah, that we should be in Babylon for 70 years. Okay? And in the next lesson and subsequent lessons, we're going to go into that and see how that was manifested by Shamash Gawishai. So that concludes Friday night history class lessons by Shamash Gawishai. Don't forget, Yachanaan, that the Most High willing tomorrow, the Sabbath service is going to continue with our Chief Minister Shalamah, 12 noon Eastern. Kan, by Shamash Gawishai. And also we're going to have a major concert tomorrow night. Shamash Gawishai. So we're going to see Ahmawan Wapanya, Yerushalayim, Center Face, Jerusalem, as we conclude tonight's lessons. The water for logging in. That concludes the book of 2 Chronicles by Shamash Gawishai. Brother Captain Manasses has been doing an excellent job outlining, these historical events. He's under weather today, that's why you didn't see him today. The Most High going to recover speedily. So I'm back into the fold. Ahmawan Wapanya, Yerushalayim, Stand and Face Jerusalem. Psalms 133. Shayar, Hama Ailwa, Ladawad, Na, Ma, Tawab, Wama, Na'ayam, Shabbath, Akyam, Gum, Yakad, Kashaman, Atawab, Ail, Ara'ash, Yarad, Ail, Azakwan, Aharan, Shayarad, Ail, Paya, Madawathyawa, Katal, Karamwan, Shayarad, Ail, Ararya, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Tazawa, Yahweh, Abaraka, Kayawam, Ayalam, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Yahushai, the water,
Aman. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garment, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Most High commanded blessings in life forevermore. By Hashem Hamashiach Yahushai, the water from Yad, Aman.
Aman.
Hallelujah. Get the Most High hand.